much better than this to have this as our icing on the cake of Group A.
These two handsome gents gonna clash here. Should be great. They've both been unstoppable so far, just dropping a single map. Actually, I think Zest might have dropped 2. Big whoop, he's won all the series. But here we are. In the bottom left-hand side, it's the blue Protoss from Team Splice, Stats.
And on the right top side, indeed, the man that has dropped 2 maps so far, but he's 4-0 in best of 3s, and that is the only stat. That matters. It is the one and only Zest.
Somebody laughing a lot at that. Wasn't me. See a lot of proxy Stargates, especially on this map. Pretty ample for it. At this point in time, you don't need to move out with that probe. So right now, we're just in the formative stages of this. What do you want to see, Ryan? I know you want to see Phoenix. You're not going to get that. What else do you want to see?
Who says that I'm not going to get that?
You're not going to get it.
At least once in his best of 3.
You're not going to get it.
At least once in his best of 3. A Stargate into a couple of Phoenixes. It's going to happen at least once.
Not once.
On this map, Jeff, I would actually like to see Blinkstalker play. I really think that Blinkstalkers have a lot of utility on this map, and I believe that it's always in your hands. I feel like there's a lot of builds in PvP that are obviously very good, but where it's kind of like, I'm going to close my eyes and I just really hope that whatever you're doing is not perfect against what I'm doing. But I feel with Blinkstalkers, that's never the case on this map. There are some rough scenarios, don't get me wrong. There are certain pushes that can really hold you. Oracle play can be annoying to deal with, and Oracle play into a certain follow-up. But I really like Blinkstalkers on this map.
I don't disagree with you at all. We'll have to see if that ends up being anything these guys are thinking about. Part of the problem I have with this, by the way, they're literally proxying in the exact same place they have earlier. I think that's so disturbing.
Yep. Even Stats with that pylon, is he just building his second pylon by default there? I mean, next time I'm playing Stats, which will probably never happen, I'm opening up with a Zealot, Jeff. And I just send a Zealot.
Stats on the ladder? Yeah. Doing pretty well over there, Kev? Yeah, it's like, you know, I hit a little bit of a win streak, find myself at 6,700 MMR. It's Stats, what do you know?
Minor upswing, it happens. Yeah. You know, it's actually, we were talking about this, guys, and before this action really kicks in, is that the next week is technically a horrible week to play some European ladder, because all these good guys have been laddering for the last 9 days versus Maru and stuff. So all of the guys that are normally at like 6-4, say 6-5, they all lose like 200 MMR in a week, but then all the accounts that were this high, they all start dropping away. So yeah, you start playing guys that are supposed to be a little higher than what they actually are, and you're losing the full jackpot against them. So good luck, have fun, happy laddering next week, guys.
I like what you're saying though, Kev, because you're literally talking to about 12 people that are like, that MMR that you drop down into is literally like 12 to 20 people.
No, but I think it triggers down a little bit, right? Like technically it's always a system, because everyone takes from the guys below them.
I'll give it to you. Let's call it 30 people. Okay? There's several tens of thousands of people watching.
Well, but now actually Stats is having some issues walling off. So these adapts, no, it's going to be painful, but I think it's
shot twice actually.
I think it's 3 probes going down total.
Look at you go, Kev.
I mean, that was well handled by Stats, given the circumstances. That could have been a lot uglier, but 3 is, I mean, for 2 adapts, it's not like 2 adapts are free, right? So
no, first shot was missed. Is that pylon spot that Oracle over there? Yeah, hello. Whoops, you didn't see anything. He's like, no? Gosh, dang it, get out of here.
Does Stats still have a shield battery in the main base? Let me take a look at that.
About to have one.
Alright, so he does have one, but obviously 2 Oracles don't care much for a single shield battery. If he comes in from the south side, I'd really love to see him actually go for that middle line, but go via the south side. Ignore the units on the north, and if you're above those assimilators, it's actually kind of annoying for sentries and stalkers to like make their way around that nexus and defend. But Zest wants to play it safe, and he doesn't want to end up losing one of his Oracles, which obviously is a very acceptable play as well.
Now, one thing to note, with the Oracles and the proxy target getting spotted, you'd kind of naturally look at that and say, well, that's really, really bad for Zest. It is. I'm not going to get, you know, I'm not going to tell you anything different. But what I will say is the 2 Oracles represent so much firepower and so much, like, you have to stay back. You have to have several Stalkers in your mineral line. If and when you move out, it's got to be crazy later. If you move any time before that, it's not like 1 or 2 Stalkers shuts this down. They will obliterate a mineral line. So with that knowledge, yes, Zest is behind right now in every way. Army, workers, all of that. He's going to have time to get back up there. He can focus on that.
Yep, and he hit a A very gnarly timing earlier in one of the PvPs. We called the tail end of it. But for now, let's focus on these oracles as he gets 3 kills, but he does take quite a bit of damage. I really feel that he could have achieved that exactly, but even better earlier. At the same time, Stats is going to try to make some magic happen with 2 adepts, and there isn't that much in the main base of Zest, so Jeff, I'm going to go with 4.
You know, and these adepts were spotted earlier, actually, which is, it's kind of tragic that they're getting any damage at all.
He F2'd them.
He F2'd. I think it's going to cost him 1 Oracle and the most of another one. So yes, it is a 3 probe loss, which it could have been worse. But man, the Oracles losing that way is actually pretty bad. So now the 1 Oracle becomes a spotter. It's no longer a threat to those mineral lines, and Stats knows that. Now the weird thing here too is Zest could make another Oracle, and I know this isn't going to seem right to you, but you, the viewer, that is. But like the 3rd, 4th Oracle, they're so expensive. They come at a time when you want to be making immortals, you want to be getting your own blink, or in this case, glaives. It gets spotted, by the way.
Yep, this is a massive scout by Stats. I wasn't sure if he actually saw that Twilight with the adepts. They were very close, but now I think he knows everything that he needs to know already. Even though it is a little bit weird when you scout the natural and you see sentries being warped in and there is an immortal, you see that many gates. I think you kind of, I would read this as charge at least. Like, I don't know if Stats has some superhuman powers, but I would normally say, I think this is charge because how many adepts can you truly make if you're also making sentries?
Yeah.
But Stats,
oh my God, it's dead.
Yeah, he's just doing the same thing, but he has way more than Zest in every possible way.
Yeah. The weird thing here too is if this attack hits before glaive finishes, that's a big problem. Because if you're just doing the same thing with just a lot, that glaive upgrade's massive. It's night and day. That being said, though, it's a pretty quick upgrade. He's not chrono boosting it, though.
No, I don't think he's
making its way across the map. I mean, this timing is one of the anti-timings, guys. I'm telling you right now. If he hits with his own adepts and they have the glaive upgrade versus non-glaive.
There are a couple shield batteries on the way. Those shield batteries are massive in these scenarios. It is important that Stats gets all of his units in a good position, though. Don't forget about the power of his force fields. But Zest could technically drop his immortals across these force fields as well. Stats, time to start chrono boosting that upgrade, buddy.
Oh my God, the upgrade is so close.
No, and he could have killed the Oracle there, but he doesn't. So now instead a couple of the probes get stasis as well. I think Zest is going to go for it. He knows he's on the clock.
And here we go. The fight's going to happen here. The shield batteries are finishing up, but the army's kind of away from it. The glaive upgrade's still not in there for Stats. This is such an anti-timing. He has a little bit of a supply advantage right now. Good Warp Prism Micro on that Immortal. But actually the Concave and now the shield batteries coming in line here might be enough. Stats edging it out in supply. His adepts kicking into high gear. Yep. It's going to be a good defense here.
Yep, it is more than good enough in the end. Gets the Oracle there as well. There were even still a couple of units in the main base of Stats helping out from the high ground. They were obviously very safe. At this point, the only thing that Zest can really do is warp in more adepts, but that's not going to make the difference. When your opponent is doing the same thing, but with a better economy. GG, Stats wins his 9.
They kill 3 probes they probably never should have, and then the F2 to respond to them was the mistake that cost him an Oracle as well. So a little bit of a crisis management miscue here from Zest, a rare one. But we're underway in game number 2 on Kairos Junction. And the top left-hand side, winning that first map, it's Splice's Stats.
Winning 9 games in a row on the ladder is already so incredibly difficult. He's doing it at the Detox 3 Masters round of 24. Let's see if this man can turn it around and secure the top spot of Group A. He's spawning in the right bottom side. It is our one and only Zest.
And I'll tell you what, I want to get snarky and be like, if I see proxy stuff, I'm going to be so disappointed. But especially at the Korean PvP meta, the belief is that you kind of have to. It's a little bit like that kind of Terran meta in TvP, unfortunately, where if you're building inside your main, it's just giving too much to your opponents, too much information. Even if you just expand off of that, you think that that's cool too. We've seen a lot of like Zest's MO in his PvP is, hey, double Oracle will be sharking around out there, and like Rotterdam just broke down, even if it doesn't do a lot of probe damage, the idea of how much you have to stop that from doing damage means that a decisive timing attack could just end your life in that game.
Yeah, and all of these Korean Protosses are so damn good with their timing attacks. Earlier I saw Zest make 3 Oracles, and then he just flew everything into the natural together with a couple of gateway units as well, and he fought with them. And that looked incredibly powerful as well, because, you know, often you like to have a couple sentries in PvP early on, and you're like, with force fields I'll always be safe. Well, not if there's 3 Oracles beaming away at your sentries, because they will survive for half a second, and then all 3 of them are gone.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, there it is. Those pylons little perusal around their area while you're doing it. And then stats is a couple of times not actually added on a proxy, but even just the pylon being outside the base, so when that hallucination comes in, it kind of signifies to the opponent, hey, there probably could be a proxy out there of something. In this case, stats will circle around back and do something. I think it looks like probably double Stargate.
Double?
Well, both of them doing Stargate. I mean.
I was like, damn, double Star. I mean,
That'd be quite the prediction, right?
every now and then, in you know, there are people who actually like it in Phoenix against Phoenix. They're like, I think you're gonna build Phoenix, so I'm gonna open up with 2 Stargates.
Yeah.
And always like, you can't even support that, so it's not even good. For like half a second, you're gonna have a few Phoenix more, but it's going to be a Twilight Council once again on the north side of the map. And Zest, once again, making those later adapts. I really love how PvP went full circle.
Yeah.
We used to start off with 2 adapts, but these days everyone's like, well, the first 2 adapts, they really can't get much done. So what I'm going to do is make my 3rd and 4th gateway unit an adapt, and that's when my opponent often doesn't expect adapts anymore, and it's more likely they do quite a bit of damage.
And here's the funny thing about what you just said, though. Those 2 adepts, really bad about cracking that pylon right there, actually. So
This is so crazy. I mean, it's going to be an even trade at best with Zest, right? Like, okay, yeah, he picked up the first Stalker, but I don't think he's ever going to get 2 of them.
You know what's amazing about this, though, Roddy? That energy for that force field, which does not get the 2nd Stalker, means that he's not scouting in there. But we did kind of miss this probe on the bottom right-hand side. They did scout Zest's base.
And I mean, this pylon is a massive scout as well, right?
Yeah,
it spots 2 adepts attacking you, so it's going to be a robo for Zest. Maybe some 3-gate robo aggression?
Yeah.
Even though it's a little bit late for that. I saw Hero early this tournament. He did it against, what's the name of that Croatian Protoss again, Jeff?
Which one?
Yeah, my boy Goblin.
There he is.
Which was in game 3, and it was actually kind of a funny build because he made a robo. I was like, he's going for 3-gate robo War Prism aggression, right? No, he made a sentry and a minute immortal. I'm like, what is this? Why is he not expanding?
Yeah.
Then he just made the latest 5.5, almost 6-minute 1-base push, but he did such a phenomenal job at keeping Goblin in the dark that is perhaps still an option as well.
And here's become a little bit of a stock standard too, the kind of late warp-in adepts. If they get into the base, they can just kind of end it. 4 or 5 probes dying at any time is devastating. Even here,
Gets the sentry.
getting the sentry's fine. And I believe this, yeah, the adept will die. So not the greatest, of course, but still, spotting that is not bad at all. This hallucination getting close to that proxy tech. Not gonna, it would be really weird if it went up there and saw it though.
Now Zest did obviously expand right after I finished my sentence, or almost in the middle of my sentence, but he's building Immortals already. Stats is building Blink Stalkers. This is obviously a circle that we went over a million times already in PvP. Blink Stalkers are fantastic in everything other than perhaps a straight up fight, especially...
Oh, God.
Yeah, he spots it. Ooh, that's massive.
He did spot it.
You could technically see the lights go up as well. I don't know if he caught that, but I think with the amount of Stalkers that Zest saw so far, he's got a very good idea that Stats is actually going for a Blink opening.
Oh, jeez. How does this keep happening? This is like, again, 5,200 on any ladder. You cannot get your adepts in a PvP.
But that's also because these guys, they want to be so freaking active. They want to spot everything that's out on the map, and obviously defending becomes a lot harder if your units are all over the place. I mean, what you're saying is spot on, Jeff, because if I would do this, I'd also shade into 7 units. But Zest also just clearly knows that Zest is a very good player, and good players, they like to be active with their units. They like to control not just their main and their natural, no, they want to control everything. But that obviously makes you a little bit vulnerable.
Can't go up there. Does get the shield on that, but by not following up, the cooldown should probably kick in here.
Look how quick that War Prism is. I really think that Zest is going to try to attack. He knows that if they get a straight-up engagement right now, that his army is so much stronger. These Stalkers stand absolutely no chance against the Immortals of Zest. Stats needs to buy some time, man. I'm not exactly sure how he's going to do it.
He's got some adepts circling around on the right side of the map, but I feel like Zest is too far out in the map and committed to ever even consider coming back at this point in time.
He's absolutely not going to turn around for this. He's like, okay, if you really want to kill 6 or 7 workers, I wish you so much success and good luck, have fun. You're still going to fight my Immortals on the other side of the map. It's important that Stats is paying attention.
Wow. Zest is just going to dive on top as the shield battery is just queued up, but it's not fast enough. The Warp Prism kind of acts as its own blink, ferrying back the units. They're on top of the Stalkers. They're not supported by anything. Probes now getting pulled, but again, those Immortals, so powerful. He's going to go after the Warp Prism, but he just doesn't have the reach for it, and that means he's getting shot at by these Immortals.
Yeah, there are still a couple Stalkers alive, though. I don't know how these Stalkers are still alive, and he blinks forward. He gets the Warp Prism jab. Now, the Immortals were on the ground, but both of them went down. Stats lost 17 workers. That is very, very painful, but he didn't die, and I actually thought he was going to die.
He did not die ish, Kevin. He's been stabbed, shot, and thrown into a river, but he's now swam to shore and is like, you haven't killed me yet, matey.
It would have been so sick if Stats was actually able to get, instead of only 2 or 3 pros with those 2 adapts, if he was able to get 7 or 8. Because then I wouldn't hate his position that much. And I guess Zest did make it very safe for himself by building that shield battery, so he wasn't able to transfer workers to his natural. It's bad for Stats, very, very bad, but still impressive that he didn't die.
Well,
yeah,
you can be as impressed as you want, Kevin. He's super dead. These adepts are going to make their way up here, and they are going to pile on the damage. The army is still so much better for Zest.
Can he recall? No. Okay,
Even a recall is expensive. But they're just getting 4 probe kills. It looks like they're going to make their way to the natural.
Going to probably get at least 1 or 2 more. So he will recall the Stalkers, but a little too late. I mean, if you're already down 15 workers, losing 7 more is what just became incredibly painful. Good job there by Zest, though, going for that follow-up, knowing that there is a good chance that Stats is once again going to move out with those Blink Stalkers. Just like would be a shame for you if 2 Adepts would show up at this point, wouldn't it?
Adepts getting their glaive upgrade on right now. I think it's a little bit weird, but honestly, if I had to put myself in the mind of Zest, they upgrade faster, and he's got things to do. He's like, let's get this done.
No, I think it's super smart because they're really
sick. Upgrades are fine, Kevin. Let's not overanalyze this. Charge, Blink, Aura is fine.
That's true. But I think he also looks at it, he's like, you know, I'm going to build a few more Immortals. My Immortals will always take care of your Stalkers, but Zealots with charge can be scary, can be annoying to deal with. Now, Zealots are not very good against Adepts with Glaives.
Wow. When you're this far ahead, it's just, like I said, it's anything. He could have not been doing upgrades. We'd be like, I love it. Just go kill him. Wow, he threw down a Stargate. Beautiful move. He'll never expect that. You know, it's like it's any of it. But seriously, these Adepts getting in, by the way. It's like 100% of both sides. They just keep getting in.
And unfortunately for Stats, he once again was on the worst end of all of that. He's getting a Templar Archives, which is very ambitious since he has 24 probes, and he's also getting charge and +2. I mean, the upgrades are going to be sick, guys. +2 against 0-0 is pretty amazing. The problem is, how is he going to stop this army from just running into his natural and once again killing 15 probes? That seems to be the big problem.
Look at you being a great commentator. How is he going to stop this? He can't. It's a Megalodon. It's coming after him. Stalker's trying to buy a little bit of time here for these upgrades to synchronize. Our Temple Archive's almost finished.
Imagine if he gets the Prism. Would you believe? If he gets the Prism before the next warp in.
He'd have to dive so hard on that.
Okay. No, I don't really believe.
You don't believe anymore?
With a couple of Zealots, 2 shield batteries and an Archon are normally capable of wonders, but the Prism warping in even more Adepts makes it so incredibly hard. He is going to blink forward. He will get that Warp Prism. The problem is there are around 17 Adepts in his natural as well, and I don't think he's going to have an answer for those.
No, it's just, this game was decided earlier, ladies and gentlemen. This expansion is null and void. As the great Latad would say, look at the supply, that's it, we're all tied up.
The rubber match to determine who is going to get seeded into the quarterfinals at the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. Is it going to be this man spawning in the left top side of year 0? I might get my Phoenixes after all, Jeff. No. This is the map for it. On the left top side, representing Splice, it is Stats.
The top right-hand side, Zest. Here's why you won't, Kevin.
Dark Templars.
No, it's because they believe you have to build your first tech building, or if you are building a tech building, you have to build outside of your base. And Proxy Phoenix that's a gamble. I mean, I'm calling it a gamble because I'm doing the commentator thing. I think it's terrible. It's just so dangerous and bad. And then you build a second Stargate in your main, but you already have one out there. And if they went blink, you're in so much danger of just losing the game anyways. Like, it just doesn't happen with these guys right now. I want you to be happy, you know?
I'm happy already.
I support you and your Phoenix endeavors, but it's not going to happen here.
This is the map for it, though. If there was going to be a map,
there's a chance.
There's also a lot of area in your main base here where you could potentially hide some stuff. Like, this is a map where, you know, one hallucinated Phoenix will not necessarily always see everything. This map is so long as well.
You are such a dreamer right now. You're over here like, you can hide it in this main base? No. Are you kidding me? If they fly, like the meta is you build a Stalker and a Sentry off the gateway, then probably 2 Adepts.
I love these pylons, by the way. They're like exactly in line with each other.
Sees everything. But yeah, no, it's... Where's the other one?
It's right here.
Literally right there.
But it seems like that probe is not going to stick around, by the way, to warp in any tech buildings. Zest is just going to enter this main base of stats. It's a 2 adept opening for stats. This could mean multiple things, Chef.
Yep.
Ooh, a robo. That's.
I love how they both scout
Is that?
the lack of second pylon. Like, oh wow, you're proxying. Never saw that coming.
I think
Yeah,
it's
the
going to be
robo.
3. This could even be a 4 gate in a weird way. Now, obviously, that's pushing it a little bit economically. But if you're only making a war prism, this could actually be a 4 gate.
Oh my god. Does it do it?
It's so
Go up
funny
there.
where Stats is hiding his stack as well. He's like,
Go up
Zelnaga
there.
Watchtower. That's something he's never going to check.
He's not going to check this out on Watchtower. He absolutely is.
Unbelievable. You know, I just can't catch a break today, can I?
Well, he's got the Nexus. I mean, the Robo, like you said, it immediately means aggression. It is 3 gates at least, maybe like an Immortal in a Warp Prism, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
But Zest is undeterred. He's going to let the Nexus keep going and add his own Robo. And it is Immortal, by the way, from Stats.
Yep, and now Stats, I mean, Zest is doing the exact same thing as Stats. The only difference is that obviously he invested in a Nexus, but that also puts a lot more pressure on Stats. And Stats open up with the 2 adepts. The 2 adepts are not going to be great in a straight-up fight with a Warp Prism. They can maybe help out if Zest decides to pull some probes, then it's very nice to have a couple of adepts in the mix, but I kind of like the way that Zest is doing this, as long as he doesn't go crazy on the probes, you know, there's no need to go up to 35 probes right now, but he's absolutely not doing that. He is respecting this as much,
Immortal.
yep, as much as you ever should, and if you're doing the exact same thing as your opponent, but you're defending
Yeah.
and he's attacking, it should always be better for the defender.
One difference, Kevin, and that's the Warp Prism. The Warp Prism is a big deal. And all the defender advantage is up there, right? Like, it's the high ground. So if you're killing your own shield batter and you have to come down to that low ground to save your Nexus, what advantage did you really have?
I would really love it that if Stats gets this Nexus, he just backs off immediately. I'd be kind of sad to see him try to straight up win the game. Oh, the Adepts, I think this time it might actually finish up. I think Stats could potentially get quite a few probes here. One of the Adepts does get surrounded. That's a little bit unfortunate. Otherwise, he could really run deeper into this main base, but he's still going to get a couple of kills. He wants to get number 4 as well, and he gets 4.
Now, the army of Stats kind of backed off that Nexus and gave the high ground to Zest, which I think is a very curious choice.
Yep.
Still has the Warp Prism, so his ability to get to this high ground, even despite the sentries, is there. Worth mentioning, by the way, Kevin, the DPS of the sentries, wow.
For the main. Oh, that's actually a sick move.
Elevator tactics.
That is a sick
It's a
move.
lot of sentries. It's like 6.
Yep.
5.
Yes, that's a little afraid. I actually think if he would have gone a little bit more towards the left top side, I think he could have unloaded all units. Now, of course, it is dangerous if Zest pulls all the probes, but...
Warp Prism now out for Zest, by the way. So that defense advantage I talked about, it's kind of gone. He's putting a Nexus down behind this. I think that's a really crazy... I mean, Kevin, that's rough. Like, I know at some point you kind of have to spend your money that way, but he's just going to be like 3 minutes behind.
Yeah, but Zest cannot really build too many probes, right? As long as... Okay, that's a really good scout, though, by Zest. He is going to see it, and he actually drops a couple of force fields. He grabs one Stalker, and the other one is incredibly low on HP.
Yeah.
I mean, Stats is expanding, but he's still not done. So this is very awkward for Zest as well. He's like, okay, so should I transition? Okay, you are expanding, but at the same time, you're still in my face. He's going to try to drop a couple force fields as well, but of course, Zest has his own Warp Prism here. So he should be able to save. I want to say his units. Look at how much damage that Immortal took already.
Yeah. And it's just backed up by a bunch of sentries, so the DPS is really low. But second Immortal is a huge difference there, by the way. 2 Immortals and a Warp Prism can hold off, like, infinity amount.
I mean, look, Stats' Nexus is almost done now, and they're still even on workers. So I actually think it was a pretty sick decision.
Yeah. Server getting a little bit of a perusal here. Both players opting to head into the Immortal drop phase.
Wings of Liberty, Jeff. Those were your glory days.
Yeah, I love it.
So you have a couple sick...
But without the Immortals, there's just nothing here.
And he can also just go for the Nexus.
Wow.
Wow, this is actually sick. Really, really good force there. Now Zest is going to bring back his Warp Prism. He's going to drop his own Immortals on top of these units, and Stats immediately recalls. Sure, he loses 2 Stalkers, but I will gladly lose 2 Stalkers
God, yes.
to kill the Nexus. What a sick move by Stats. Stats has actually played this so well so far.
And that is where the aggressor, I think, had an advantage. He's just outside his base, and he sees the Warp Prism load up with the Immortal and says, okay, without that, I'm not afraid of anything you have. I just go right up to the high ground with my Warp Prism and army, and I just end this thing.
All right, now Zest is immediately going to move out. He's like, hey, I'm going to unpower your robotics facility, and he's going to deny this observer as well. And I believe that Stats lost the other observer, right, in the main base. So Stats now 0 observers. And even though Dark Templars are incredibly unlikely at this point, no Protoss ever wants to have 0 observers and no Robo.
And rebuilding that Robo's a bit of a pain as well. It's not, you know, it obviously is less expensive than it used to be, but at the same time, it's just revisiting a tech just to get like a defensive ability out there. So it's kind of a scary prospect, but he is going to have to do that. Another Nexus going down for Zest behind this, who's not all in on the concept. Be careful.
I mean, you got to be so careful with your stats now as well, because obviously he already recalled, so he can't recall again. And there are so many sentries on the side of Stats. Stats is going for his own Resonating Glaive. I mean, if I'm Stats right now, Jeff, I am worried about Dark Templars, believe it or not. It's like, okay, he's getting a Forge, by the way, because it's unlikely at this phase in the game, but there is a chance that Zest already went for a Twilight, and that he dropped it at this point. And you're like, oh my goodness, if DT show up, I'm actually losing this game.
Good news for Zest here. He shows up to a natural mineral line and sees it not very densely saturated, so he knows he might be in a little bit of trouble, but he's not in that much trouble. And in fact, as we look at it, he's actually ahead 2 workers. I can't imagine he thinks that, but he is.
This game has been so fun and so interesting back and forth because it's non-stop aggression and both players absolutely committing to their aggression, but also being satisfied at a certain point. Like, hey, this was good enough, and this was good enough as well. Stats is now going to rebuild his robotics facility. Obviously, eventually you're going to need one. The longer this game goes, the more you're going to need. Immortals are always good. Observers are very important. And even a War Prism, I mean, what are you going to do without a Prism? Whoever wants to attack on a map as big as Year Zero without a War Prism?
Both players getting pretty close here again in supplies, both in workers and in army. It is, like Kevin said earlier, that a depth upgrade for stats, which I do think is a bit of an interesting choice. You can not mine the gases at your natural, add a bunch of gateways, and hit a pretty sick timing. But it's just putting so much on the line off of a weird back and forth, like you said, right? Like, I can't imagine either player knows that they're either ahead or behind, and we know that they're very close, but they can't know.
My one reasoning, perhaps, for this is that Stats knows that Zest is still very heavy on the sentries. And if you know your opponent still has 5 or 6 sentries, would you rather have Zealots or Adepts? I would rather have Adepts.
Yeah, but I like Zealot Archon so much more. It might be a stylistic thing a little bit, but...
Yeah, I think the longer the game goes, Jeff, the more spot on you are. But I think Adepts have that 1 or 2 ways, right, where they're actually super good, and they're also really good against Zealots, because
oh my god!
Those do quite a bit of damage. That's a very, very dangerous game that our boy Zest is playing. He's gonna recall this Prism as well. I mean, Zest is doing what you said you love, and I'm absolutely with you. I mean, 1 or 2 Archons are fantastic against Adepts.
Yeah.
Look at Zest, by the way. He's getting 5 cannons. He's like, you know what? You want to make Adepts? Adepts are not very good against buildings, are they? No, they're not.
And this scout right here puts Stats in such a weird spot.
If I'm Stats, I'm not committing. Come on.
No, you can't.
No.
But we've said this before, Kevin. Sometimes these guys get really tunnel vision, and it's what got them here. That we call it like commitment, you know. But at the same time, to go up there, no way.
His army is big, obviously. I mean, he's up 30 supply, but he's gonna have to elevate his units above these over these force fields as well.
He's gonna do it.
It's just Adepts. Now drop these Immortals. That's exactly what Stats does.
The Immortal in the front dies almost immediately. The Archon in the front taking a lot of damage as well. There's not actually a lot of shield batteries. It's just the photon cannons. The supply heavily in favor of Stats. He's up almost double army supply. Guess what, commentators? He's the guy that's gonna win the group. You're the guys talking about it. What's your face?
Why are there 5-6 Stalkers trapped in the main base?
Great question, Roddy. Doesn't matter. The game's over. All right, Stats is raffle stomping his way up a 5-cannon ramp.
Oh my
and
goodness.
Zest is gonna tap out. I guess he needed 10 cannons.
Yes, he's like, never again will I underestimate a push, you know. These underreactions is really what's holding me back from
it. Is, you know, it's like, okay, he's going for Adepts, 5 cannons. Should have been 5 cannons and 15 shield batteries, and it would have helped.
Stats is giving him a hand. Well, that means that Stats, the finalist of the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice 2017,